On January 31st and Feb 1, multiple coordinated suicide and gun assaults stuck across Balochistan, including the provincial capital Quetta, the port of the Gwadar, Mastung and Noshki. Baloch freedom fighters delivered a big blow to Islamabad after targeting police stations, paramilitary bases, high security prisons, sparking intense clashes with security forces. According to official figures, the attack left at least 17 security personnel and 31 civilians dead and injured many others. Pakistani troops then mounted a counter-offensive lasting more than 40 hours, during which security forces said they killed approximately 145 Baloch freedom fighters. The Balochistan Liberation Army, a Baloch separatist group banned by Pak, has claimed responsibility for the attack, calling the campaign a coordinated offensive against the state. BLA seeks greater autonomy for Balochistan, which is ravished by Pakistan through the Belt and Road project of China. They're exploiting the resources. Across Balochistan cities and towns, the atmosphere remains tense, road remains quiet, transport services have been disrupted and mobile internet access has been restricted, underscoring the scale of disruption to everyday life. Pakistan military and interior minister Mastung Naqvi has alleged that the attackers involved in Balochistan had India's support, a claim New Delhi has categorically rejected. The ME said that we categorically reject the baseless allegation made by Pakistan, which are nothing but its usual tactics to deflect attention from its own internal failing. India's official response underscores a firm rejection of Pak narrative, while emphasizing that such allegations are part of repeated pattern that overlooks the deep-rooted political and human rights issues which Balochistan is suffering. Despite being rich in natural gas, coal, copper, gold, Balochistan remains Pakistan's poorest and least developed province. 44% population in Balochistan is under poverty line, and the region records the lowest literacy rate in Pakistan. Basic services, healthcare, education, drinking water remain scarce in the large parts of the region. Local leaders and right groups say revenue from Balochistan resources flow to Islamabad and Punjab, while province itself is left with little investment, little political power. Instead of development, what Balochistan has received over these decades is heavy militarization. Security forces dominate vast areas of the province. Checkposts, counter-insurgency operations and intelligence raids have become part of daily life. Human rights organizations have repeatedly flagged enforced disappearances, extrajudicial killings and arbitrary detentions, abductions, rape, conversion of young girls including minors, allegations that Pak authorities deny. Families in Balochistan continue to protest demanding answers, but missing relatives, some of whom vanished years ago, still elude. The cycles of repression and resentment has fueled a long-running insurgency driven by groups demanding greater autonomy of outright independence. Each fresh wave of violence is followed by a familiar response from Islamabad blaming foreign hand and external interference. New Delhi says Pakistan is deflecting attention from its internal failure instead of addressing the legitimate grievance of the Baloch population. On this issue, I am joined by Major General Rajan Kochar, Hakeem Baloch, BNM's Foreign Committee member, and Francisca Merino, journalist and author, Balochistan Bruised, Battered and Bloodied. Thank you, all of you. Let me straight away go to Hakeem Baloch, your opening comment on what Pakistan Army is doing in Balochistan.
Thank you very much for having me. So, as you've mentioned in your intro, as the war outbreak on 31st of January in the early morning, when Baloch Liberation Army attacked multiple cities across Balochistan, including the capital, Quetta, Noshki, Gwadar, Panjgur, Pasni, Tum. Many of the areas are still under the control of the Baloch Liberation Army. The news are coming that Noshki is still under the full control of the Baloch Liberation Army. There's an outright war going on between the army of Pakistani army and the Baloch Liberation Army's freedom fighter. And they have also, I was just reading the news, Pakistani military personnel have targeted civilians in Noshki, killing over a dozen people there. Now, these are just the latest news coming from Balochistan. They are not directly engaging with the Baloch Liberation Army's freedom fighter. They're using drones to target, civilian populations where they are saying that the militants are there. Also, just to mention one bit of information which I was seeing on the screen, and as you've mentioned as well, the number which are Pakistani state saying that they have targeted 145 freedom fighters of Baloch Liberation Army. Baloch Liberation Army has refuted that claim, saying that only 27 member of his organization has been, killed during these operations. Out of which 14 members were part of the Baloch Liberation Army's Majid Brigade, which is a suicide squad of the organization, which actually, when take part in such operations, their focus is, their aim is to, provide support to the other militants. And in that action, they normally use, a car, they explode themselves, and their aim is to die during that battle. So they, most of which they've been killed, they were actually went with the idea of self-sacrificing. And the number which are very huge, but we believe that the Pakistani
Okay.
army has killed mostly civilians, and they're still killing, as I said, a dozen in Noshki, and also I believe a dozen or more in Gwadar.
Okay. Francisca, your opening comments, madam?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen your intro. Well, Pakistan keeps accusing other countries of this, and of course, it does not change its strategy in Balochistan. They say doing the same thing continuously, expecting a different result, is one of the symptoms of mental illness. This is what Pakistan does in Balochistan. Enforced disappearances, torturing people, illegally jailing, killing people without motive, and facing the legitimate demands of Baloch as a security threat. I mean, of course, then this is bound to happen, and more people will join resistance because, again, I keep saying it, but Balochistan is an illegally occupied country. And this is the way it should be dealt by the international community. Is an illegal occupied country. What Pakistan is doing in Balochistan fits perfectly the definition of genocide internationally accepted. They are killing Baloch because they are Baloch. They are exploiting the resources of the country. And then they are complaining why people oppressed, killed, thrown in mass graves are reacting. This is bound to happen and will happen again and again until Pakistan does not stop with this so-called strategy. They refuse to talk with the Commission of Women that went walking to Islamabad just to demand, just to inquiry about their disappeared relatives. They refused. They harassed them.
Okay, madam. Okay, let me get General Kocher. General Kocher, the West has a lot of human rights issues when it comes to India. The Western press has no human rights issues when it comes to Balochistan. I have seen this strange silence in all the publications from New York to London. If something is happening in Kashmir, even a pin drops, it becomes a human right violation. So much of violence has taken place against civilians, but there is no narration on what's happening in Balochistan.
Karthikeyan, see, this issue is a very, very serious one, and it has to be flagged right up to the United Nations. But unfortunately, the Human Rights Watch and the Amnesty International is absolutely silent, as you rightly said, because the superpowers or the people who matter as part of the UN and as a part of these organizations are turning a blind eye because of their vested interests. We know US is actually eyeing those rare earth materials and elements here, and a crypto deal also. We keep on hearing about all these things, and this is all in Balochistan because Pakistan has not been able to exploit to the extent the kind of a mineral wealth Balochistan has. The second most important aspect is, see, we are talking about genocide as Francisca, also very rightly you mentioned that the people who are getting killed, this figure of 144 or 145, more than one third are civilians, and these are innocent because when you carry out a drone strike, and I have seen the Pakistan army strategy and tactics in Balochistan, they have even used air power. uh, they don't venture close to these Baluchis because they know in the event of a firefight, the guerrilla type of warfare, the Pakistan army is not very well trained, and Baluchis are very well trained, and we have seen almost 400 casualties of the Pakistani soldiers in the last 1 year. Jafar Express was a living example in front of you that how the Baluchis have targeted the Pakistan army, and the things didn't come out in the media the way it should have been come out because Pakistan forces had a casualty in excess of
So the
150.
world isn't asking the right question. Is Balochistan a foreign country? Is Balochistan a country? Is Balochistan a nation which Pakistan has occupied? I think that's the political question.
Yeah, that's the political question, and it's a very, very rightful question because, as brought out by one of the panelists, Balochistan was taken over by Pakistan without its own consent. So, if the people of that place, if the people of that country see, it's 44% of land of Pakistan, and only 5% of the population of Pakistan stays there. I think this demographic factor is one of the major reasons Baluchis are not having their voice in Pakistan because they are in a very, very low minority there. And none of their senior positions in the Pakistan hierarchy, you take the Pakistan army, 80% of the Pakistan army is dominated by Punjabis. Look at the administration posts in the Pakistan army, in the
Okay.
government, again Punjabis. So they don't have a voice. And when they don't have a voice, I think they are not going to be heard.
Okay. Hakim, do you think that Balochistan has not received a lot of support from international community in context that it was forcibly occupied by Pakistan? Balochistan is a separate nation. It's a separate nationality. It should not be seen as an ethnicity.
Well, yes, that's the unfortunate scenario when in 1948 the Balochistan was occupied. So historically, when the Great Britain, as they call themselves, when they were leaving the subcontinent, when they unfortunately divided India and they created this fanatic state, a fascist state under the name of Islam, Pakistan. From the very first day, Pakistan's intention was to occupy Balochistan under the name of their religion. But both houses of Balochistan parliament, the upper house and the lower house, rejected that, and they told the Pakistan, the then Governor General Muhammad Ali Jinnah, who was also unfortunately the lawyer, but he was a lawyer of Balochistan, representing Balochistan case in front of the British Empire for its sovereignty, for its freedom. So the first setback that Balochistan has was from the British Empire, because it was their strategy telling Pakistan to occupy Balochistan. And since then, what we have seen that Britain has not only broken its treaty promises with Balochistan, but then Pakistan has been given free hand. 5 major military operations were conducted in Balochistan. This is the 5th operation going on in Balochistan, and as a result of which, now what we are seeing in Balochistan, that the Baloch people, the Baloch nation, who never felt, thought, or understood themselves as Pakistani. This is why we say, when we talk about ourselves, that we have nothing in common with these, religious extremist Punjabis. We are a separate nation. We had historical relation with, the then India, which obviously had most of the Pakistan. We had relations with Afghanistan.
Okay.
And one thing just to mention there, what we are looking here is international community is ignoring us, but the regional powers should be remembering their historical ties with Balochistan.
One minute to Francisca. What about the Chinese there, reaping the riches of Balochistan through Belt and Road?
The Chinese are are one of the reasons why situation has been worsening. Chinese have economically and also militarily occupied part of Balochistan. In Gwadar, there are Chinese troops, and of course, Chinese installations have been targeted during the years. But again, we are talking of an economic, military, and administrative occupation. We are talking of a country, Pakistan, which is waging a war against Balochistan, against the citizens of Balochistan.
Okay.
Since 1948.
I agree. I've really run short of time. I think the reason why, the reason why I put this on air is to say Balochistan is a country, it's a nation. It receives support from India, moral support from India, because India does not support anyone militarily. And lastly, Pakistan forcibly occupied an entity, a nation, a nationality which is not an ethnicity without its consent, as General Kocha said.